I'm Terry Oracle. I thought it'd be fun to show you my other hobby, which is gaming. This is a board game, a war game called Bitter Woods. It is World War II Battle of the Bulge. So basically you have units here and units are attacking other units. So you'd have, for example, this stack of units, which is out of supply, and it's set for counterattack. So it has 4 attack power plus 8 attack power. It's 12 plus 3, I believe, for that makes 15. Then you have, let's say, versus 5 attack power. So then you would come over here to this chart and you'd roll a dice. So for example, in this case, I rolled a 10. So then you'd come, which is 15 to 5, which is 3 to 1. Go down here to the 8 column, and then you'd have an A1, for example, which all the codes have different modifiers as well. So you'd shift 1 column left for a 1 column shift for something like an aircraft. If you have artillery, it'd be a different shift. If the vendor is out of supply, it would be a -1 to the roll. So for example, that would, instead of a 10, that would be a 9, etc., etc. So then you would do your result, which would be a loss of a unit, for example, or you'd have the defender maybe loses a unit, or you'd have a retreat for a certain number of hexes. So then you go over here and let's say process a retreat, for example. You just move this, whatever available spaces he has. So he's on a road now, so you'd get free road movement here and here, etc., etc. So then if you take a loss, you flip it over, and you'd have a combat loss for that particular unit based upon how many times he loses. And then you'd have reduced units to where a unit has less strength based upon how many things that he lost, etc., etc. So you also have like leaders, for example. So the leader will give a certain morale boost to the units and all that other stuff. Anyway, so an average game takes about probably 12 to 15 hours, I guess. I mean, it depends on how fast you do it. If you're new to it, it's going to take a little longer than if you're, pretty accustomed to these type of games. So this particular game is rated pretty much on the simplicity scale, like fairly simple. So there are other much worse games. So in this game, you get to stage your unit. So you'll put this unit here and you'll stage it from the box. So it comes in a box of chits, and then you cut them all out and then you trim them if you have a trimmer, and then you put them on here, and that'll tell you what hex it goes on. So for example, this is hex 32, 33, and above it is hex 32. I'm trying to do this blind. 32, 32. 32, 30, yeah, which is, I can't pronounce that city name. Anyway, so that unit would be on the city. If you're on the city, you get a bonus because you have places to hide, etc., etc. So you have different type of terrain. So this terrain would be harder to move through than, say, this terrain. If you have a road, you're able to move down the road at 1/4 speed. So instead of one move, so this guy gets 4 movement points. So instead of going here or here, which would cost certain movement points because the terrain is bad, you could just go on the road. So you get 1/4 of movement. So it's 4 points. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'd only use 1 point because it's 1/4 of a movement point for the road. Anyway, so this game is called Bitter Woods. It's on the simpler scale. And then you also have things over here to where you have reinforcements coming in on certain days. So on this day, we have a reinforcement coming in on December 22nd in the morning. So that is a reinforcement that comes in on that particular day. And we got a leader, which will come in. So no other reinforcements for this scenario. So when you run a scenario, you'll have certain scenario rules. So for example, in this particular scenario, I think it's on the other page. In this particular scenario, here we go. This is Patton's Relief. So you have certain rules that apply to certain scenarios. So for example, here you read this, and if you have any units that need to be blocked, or you have roads that are blocked, or bridges that are blown, etc., you have to handle that appropriately. And then again, you'll have rules for each individual scenario. And I think on this game, there's like 7 scenarios or something. So some of the scenarios have certain units entering at certain times, etc., etc. So overall, it's pretty fun. You have to leave this on the table for a few days. This is not one of the things that you're going to finish up today type thing, unless you have, I guess, no life whatsoever. But you'll leave this on the table for a few days, so you'll need a really large table space to fit all this stuff in. So again, this is a smaller, simpler war game, which is good. So others will take up, I have a few that'll take up like 4 tables this size. So it'll be one table will be one map, and you have another table you'll attach to it, and you have another table you'll attach to it. So some are like 4 tables huge. Anyway, so this is pretty fun. It's strategic, and it involves a lot of memory and setup and attention and stuff. So I like it sort of a brain burner, more so than some of the simpler board games. Anyway, so I thought it'd be fun to show my other hobby, which is wargaming. Thank you for watching.